Hey! Welcome back to the HockeyBuzzcast. We have the full cast of the HockeyBuzzcast here today in various studios. Russ, where are you? What are you doing? What's going on?
I'm still in Tampa. I'm in a hotel, and I'm going to go cover the game tonight. But before then, we're going to have an adult conversation. I'm not going to get interrupted until I get my sentence out, and more than one sentence. And that basically is, it looks like Aaron Judge is going to be a free agent. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to come to terms with the New York Yankees. He's going to arbitration on Friday, and it looks like from what's happening is he wants to set a precedent with the league and try and make players more money. And this is I want to say this is a first in my lifetime where the Yankees are going to lose out on one of the best players in the league because of money. Now you
Wrong. Okay.
I muted Mike for a second there. I did my best.
Yeah, I know. Good try. It's impossible. The arbitration is Friday, yes, but his contract is up at the end of the year. The Yankees made an offer. They will make an offer in the offseason. It's just a question of how much it's going to take. If he wants 10 years, he's not going to end up being a Yankee. If he's a 31-year-old player, and he's been injury prone for almost all of his career, except for his rookie year when he hit 52 home runs, and last year when he had a really good year. Other than that, he has missed on average about 40 to 45 games a year. Do they want him?
10 teams will be after him.
Yes. Do the Yankees want him? Yes. Does he want to stay if he gets paid? And that's, I think they're going to have to pay him significantly more than they were willing to pay him in the offseason, but I don't think that this means he's gone. I think this means he's going to get paid more. That's all it means from the Yankees.
Okay. Sure.
I buy that.
I'm with Mike, by the way.
Are you?
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. He's absolutely right. Like he this could blow up. I saw a guy talking about it on one of these sports shows, and I thought, he made he said, rarely do you see the resolution of something with the Yankees that comes down to logic. But he said, that's what this is going to come down to. If he's going to be reasonable, they're going to take him because they want Aaron Judge. He's good to have around. They're willing to pay him. But if he's going to be unreasonable, he said they're going to let him go.
Yeah,
and they don't normally do that. But he said, still a long way to go.
The example here, and Russ knows this player so well because, he robbed millions of dollars from the Mets over the last couple of years, is in Robinson Cano. Robinson Cano is nowhere close to being the level of player that Aaron Judge was. And when he was a free agent, the Yankees offered him, they offered him more AAV on a shorter term. I think it was 8 years. He took the more money on a 10-year deal, and he was 29 at that point. And look what happened in the last couple of years of that contract. He was busted for steroids, and he was over the hill. And, I don't think Aaron Judge is a steroid guy. He's just a massive human being. But his durability, and more than likely, he's going to have to move at some point over the next 7 or 8 years, however long the contract is. He's going to have to move to first base from the outfield. And Kev, if he gets hurt between now and the end of the season, the $40 million he could make goes down probably about $5 or $6 million because that would just burnish the reputation that he has trouble staying healthy. He's a great player, but he can't. Up until last year, 1 year did he stay healthy, and that was the year he hit over 50 home runs.
Yeah, I mean, I still think he'll end up with the Yankee because I think in his heart he wants to stay with the Yankees. But I mean, we're going to see. He's dug in about the money, and we'll see.
He wants money and a sneaker deal, and we have to admit this, Kev. When you go to arbitration and you're fighting for more money with the team that you say he's going to stay with, it usually doesn't create a lot of good feelings.
Yeah, but the arbitration was delayed, Russ, because of the lockout.
I get it, but still, the Yankees didn't do anything about. They could have made sure this didn't go to arbitration so they could keep him happy to keep him signed, and they didn't do that.
Yeah, but what I would say is, and you know this too because you've covered him. There's a lot less angst on both sides to this than there is in the fan base. You know,
Oh yeah,
fans get overworked up on this, and
that's true.
To this, both sides are looking at this. They don't really have the same level of angst as the fans do.
No, that's completely true.
Right. There you go. All right. Also, before we start, real quick, I have a funny story because I'm on my deck, which I spent a lot of time redoing, so I'm trying to enjoy it. It was really in awful shape. It looks pretty good now. It's fair. It's not the greatest. I could do better, but I'm happy with it. I've decided to give up on it. This is as far as it's going to go. And I'm thinking to myself, that's okay, that's good, and that's fine. So I sit down, I've tried for this is my third time to try to do a show out here. The first time I came out here, the people burst through the gate over there with their lawnmowers, and I just picked the time they were cutting the grass. That was a problem. Yesterday I'd been out here, it started to rain. Today I went out here and immediately sat in my chair and immediately collapsed into the ground. And I want to show you what happened here. So I thought I did a pretty good job with my deck, but let me bring your hammer down here for a second, and you can see this hole.
Ooh.
That where my chair is. So when I for whatever reason there was a weakness in this board right here, which I did not see when I redid a lot of boards.
There's something called wood filler act.
I know I'm going to use that, but that goes clear through, Mike. That's like clear through. Like I
know.
I went clear. I sat down and just collapsed into the ground. It was hilarious. I wish I had been on camera while I did that, but
Can you get underneath the deck?
No, not really.
Okay.
No, I mean not. It wouldn't be worth it. I could pull this thing up again, but I pulled up about 7 of these big, beam wooden things and put them in. I thought this one was fine.
Wait, so has any human been underneath your deck, like ever?
Not that I know of. No.
Foxes have been underneath there, right?
I'm sure it's got to be a frigging scary place. I mean, the foxes live over there. So if I can point this out, so you can see that big tent there.
Yeah,
they're moving in. They
don't live in the tent, but the blue thing that you see there is the beginning of the hockey rink, which is behind there, which is covered with some of the blue tarp that goes over the rink in the winter. But the big tents are and during COVID we got these big tents for our kids to have outdoor play type things with their friends. I mean they're 17, so they wouldn't call them play dates because they're older, but now they're just a place where they go and probably smoke pot. We don't really know, but
they're just to get away from you, and we
just like that they're here.
Yeah.
So we let them do whatever they want to here. I actually I'm not gonna say this. I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it there. Let's go. Let's start the show.
Let's do the show.
Really good story about that, but I won't tell it on the air. All right, here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It is Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022.
Pause. Yeah.
I'm Michael Agello, and I'm patting myself on the back because I went 5-0, picking every winner of every major award voted on by the PHWA. Thank you.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Kevin Allen. I don't even know what to say. I never know what to say with Mike.
Everyone is
things that interest Mike are just you can never predict them. Yeah. So, well, good.
I'm Eklund, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday, and you know that because you're here. But we're here to give you all the news that's fit. We got a game tonight. I've got an interesting thing from X Basement, which I've been cleaning out, and I found something cool in my basement, which I wanted to show you guys. Hockey memorabilia that we'll show you later on, and we also are going to talk. We're going to start, of course, with the awards. Everybody got a certificate in the NHL. The awards, and here, so Mike, you went 5-0, so maybe let's start with Austin Matthews, who we all kind of agreed probably yesterday we should win this award. Although I thought that Connor McDavid might still have a shot.
Yeah,
I thought so too.
It was an outside chance, and only if honestly, I think that the I was dotted and the T was crossed with Matthews also winning the Ted Lindsay, voted on by the PA, the players. So he won by over 500 points. Had I think it was 112 first place votes. So it ended up being rather decisive. And honestly, I think he deserved it. I think he had a fantastic year. Obviously, this is an award based on the regular season and not the playoffs. And we know McDavid had a fantastic playoff, and Matthews did pretty well for 7 games until his team lost. But he deserves credit. I mean, I think it was a fantastic year. He's, Kev, he's been the guy over the last few years. He's the only Leaf. I think he was the only Leaf player that won the Calder since before the expansion in '67. And now he's the first Hart Trophy winner since Teeter Kennedy in 1955. So it's an accomplishment, and obviously the stuff that he said about the Leafs and the organization, I think a lot of Leaf fans who are concerned that maybe he goes free agent in a couple of years, maybe you need to cool their jets, because the organization realizes this is one of the best players in hockey. They're going to pay him, and he likes playing in Toronto. So I think the worry about that is a little overhyped.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that everyone got this right, too, just in terms of, he was the most talked about player this season, too. He was a story. He was the storyline, the way he was scoring goals. And, he just keeps the evolution of him as a player is now, I don't want to say it's complete, because I think he's going to be like Crosby, where he's going to continue to work on things all the time. But I think everyone feels pretty good that he won the award, and I think it was justified.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is I did vote Shesterkin for the Hart #1. I think I put Matthews second, McDavid third, something like that. But if Shesterkin didn't win both this year, I do kind of question if a goalie's ever going to win 2 again, because he put up some numbers that were shattering like goalies of the past, including Vasilevsky. Like, the season he put up was stellar. And so it does make me wonder now if there's even an appetite to give a goalie 2 awards anymore, even, and I was happy to see at least he came in third, I think.
Third.
Yeah. And that's really good. But again, it does make me wonder if a goalie's ever going to win 2 again.
Goalies don't get any respect, Russ. I mean, it's like at the end of the day, we talk about the Hall of Fame is unfair to them.
Yep.
No one's willing to give. Now, you're not even willing to give a guy who's second in most in the league $5 million a year to lead your team. There's all sorts of things that just goalies have no respect whatsoever, and it's really just amazing to me. Like, you'll give a third liner, $5 million. You'll give a
you won't.
But it's just, the reality is, like, in the backup situation, you guys know how much I profess backups. So I don't know. I just think, I mean, Shesterkin was probably the most valuable player, literally, in the NHL this year. I mean, I don't think it's hard to argue that without Shesterkin, Rangers don't make the playoffs. No. I don't think. And
they wouldn't. They wouldn't.
Yeah, but there are different ways to look at it. I mean, I know that somebody pointed out, well, Matthews missed, I think, like 9 games, and the Leafs went 7-2 in those 9 games. So does that mean that because they went 7-2, that means he's not the most valuable player? Well, he scored 60 goals in 70 some odd games.
Yeah, and I predicted he would score 65 goals, and everyone laughed at me at the beginning of the season. But he's definitely one of those guys who you could see this coming. I mean, he is an absolute stud. With the puck, and just his ability to turn a pass into a shot is just incredible.
But you know what my counter is? If Shesterkin missed 9 games, the Rangers would have been in trouble.
Big time.
And no, Russ, he missed. I think he only started 52, so he missed 30 games because he didn't start.
No, I mean, that's okay. I mean 9 when they were counting on him to start.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think Russ's point about can goalies win is a fair one.
Yes, I do.
To be sure. But what I would say is, if we hadn't had a Matthews and a Connor McDavid, I think he would have won. I mean, I really do believe that. I mean, I think there is a path for a goalie to get there, but it has to be, there's no guy that we're kind of talking about, and not that that's a criteria, but I see that as an indicator. When there's a lot of buzz about a player during the season, it's kind of an indicator that he's kind of taken over. And I think that's what happened. I think early in the season I had Shesterkin as I think at the halfway point as my MVP. But over time, it just became obvious that both Connor McDavid and Matthews were just kind of taking over. But I have no problems with anybody voting for Shesterkin this year because Russ is absolutely right. Where would they be?
We also have like a year when we've had more MVP candidates than ever. I mean, this year,
that's true.
And
That
Johnny
hurt them.
Gaudreau, like
Hurt
Johnny
the
Gaudreau, we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about Gaudreau too, like who had an MVP season.
Gaudreau had an amazing year.
Yeah.
By all standards, was an MVP season.
Well, I voted Jonathan Huberdeau. Like I voted Matthews 1. I voted Huberdeau and Gaudreau 2 and 3, and then Shesterkin 4,
Right.
and David 5. I don't think any one of those picks are outside the. And I think Huberdeau ended up 4th and Gaudreau 5th. So they were within the realm of I
mean, look back to the year that Taylor Hall won it. And Taylor Hall had a great season too. But I mean, all 5 of those had a better season this year than Taylor Hall had that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Taylor Hall year, Eck, was like sort of like, okay, you finally reached where we thought you were going to reach, and he got it. And I think that's what it was. But you're right. Yeah, these numbers are way better, all of them.
Yeah, it's astonishing year.
Now,
go ahead, Mike. Continue.
No, I was going to say now the most contested award, the closest race was the Norris, and Mikhail Makar won by 25 points over Roman Josi. Roman Josi got more first place votes, but Makar got more second place votes, and Josi was down the list 3rd and 4th for a few people. And apparently, I didn't find out who, but apparently Elliot Friedman was saying that one writer did not vote Josi in the top 5, which that's their right, but they're wrong because he's arguably the best defense. And Kev, I thought this was going to be like the Harry Howell year for Josi because Makar, Heiskanen, Quinn Hughes, they're probably going to dominate the next decade. And, Harry Howell won the year before Bobby Orr ran off a bunch of them. And basically it was like, we know we're going to give it to you, but we know this guy is going to win the next 7 or 8. And I mean, I'm surprised Josi didn't win, but it was a very close race.
Yeah. And this is the argument for why I, when I was president, we pushed to get more people. We used to have only 60 people voting, and we had a similar thing happen. Ray Bork was left off a ballot. Now, when there's 63 people voting and Ray Bork was not put on a ballot, it had an impact. I don't think this time it cost anyone.
No, but it does make you wonder, Kev, like, again, and everybody has their right to pick wherever they want, but I don't know how you couldn't have Josi in the top 3 no matter what, no matter who you are voting.
Well, yeah. Do you have the right to do that? I think you have a responsibility to, act in a professional manner. And I don't know that it's professional to believe that Josi was not in the top 5 defensemen.
I mean, I'll give you my rationale. I did vote Josi 1, and I did a lot of work looking at what Josi's season was. It could have been very easy for me to just say, yeah, look at Makar, check it off, done. But I put a lot of work into what Josi did, and I got to see him more games towards the end of the season, and I was like, man, if this guy was not in the lineup for Nashville, like, forget it. Just fold the 10.
Yeah.
And one
talk about MVPs, MVPs, he's like, oof.
And one potential solution, Kev, might be, because I believe the way the votes are broken down, it's like 5 points for a first place vote, 4, 3, 2, 1. Maybe you give more weight to the first place vote to give it more points. Maybe. You go 9, 7, 5, 3, 1, or something like that. Something like that, because if Josi gets, he had 6 more first place votes than Makar. Then where though, I'd be interesting to get ex-wife to weigh in on this, but with 195 votes, I think we're have reached a threshold. I just watched a movie about the people in Michigan that figure out how to beat the Massachusetts lottery, and the crux of it all, it was a good movie. Yeah, and the crux of it all was the more that they bet, the better they were at taking luck out of the factor. And I think that's what we did. I think we've reached, with 195 people voting, I think we've reached the point that that won't happen. Because you're always going to have 1 or 2 kind of screwball votes, for lack of a better term.
That's always going to happen.
I've talked to you about it before. There's a bunch of, voting is a fascinating thing, like, in general, right? Like, and the way people vote is incredible. Like, and this vote is, how this vote is tabulated exactly? I'm not even sure, Kevin. Could you answer that question? So it's that you get certain amounts of points for first.
Yeah, I mean, it might just call it out. It's 5-3.
Right.
whatever it
I'm
is.
sorry. I was looking at something
Right.
else. Mike was talking and not paying attention to him at all.
Yeah.
So yeah. So but
Why am I shocked?
So this kind of situation is really it is interesting, because if you have just a straight up, you're picking one person statistically, and just that one person is the only one who gets a vote. That's like we do in, say, in a presidential election, for example.
Right.
That you have like the one person where you should always have a situation where you give your top three. That is statistically proven to be way more accurate to what people want at the end of the day, and also gives you a chance to so we don't just in not to get political, but so we wouldn't have to have just two parties. We wouldn't have two political parties if you voted slightly differently. But there's all kinds of stuff. So statistically, I think when you're doing a 1 through 5, I'll find out for sure. But I think you need probably around 100 votes. Probably is pretty close to like a sample size.
Yeah, when we're at almost 200 now, but it's certainly much better than when we had, there were 21 teams, and everybody, there were 3 votes per team, and so it was 63 votes is what we had. But the other problem was we sometimes didn't get everybody voting, which still happens today. People forget that they threw up their ballots, they all kinds of things, and and I've never identified them, but when I was doing it, I did it for more than a decade. There were mainstream people who would forget to vote.
Kind of regularly.
No, not regularly, but you just would forget. I remember one time when we had 63 votes, when I would do kind of a head count as we got close to the deadline, and I would try to track down the people to make sure they got their ballot in. And I remember there was someone who was on vacation in the UK and simply had just forgotten. So it was a difficult thing. That's why I think it was just crucial that we expanded the voting to take the margin of error out of it. And I had actually, I don't even remember who I talked to, because it was so long ago. But I remember talking to some people about odds and stuff, and getting it organized and trying to make sure that we shrunk the margin of error. So
pretty good.
The Calder was extremely one-sided. Mort Sider received, let's see here, 170 of the 195 votes first place. Zegras was second, and Michael Bunting was third. So that I mean, Kev, Sider was, I think, the overwhelming.
Yeah, and it really demonstrates that the writers, and it's not all writers now, we've expanded a little bit and given them to some broadcast partners as well. But it really shows that they do their homework, because even though Sider had offensive statistics, really, I think people voted on him just because he was the total package. He was on his team, he led his team in block shots. He was the second in hits. He's just a beast,
It'd be fun to do. Would be fun to do, Kevin, is because I watched quite a few Detroit games. Honestly, we was one of the reasons I would watch them. That he was, how many more games were watched this year from out of towners because of a guy like him. When a guy like that comes into the league, you want to see it. And when I would watch him, usually with say on Center Ice or Center Ice Package, or on some strange app somewhere, and I would hear the announcer, from the opposing city, how they would. I would love to put a compilation together of what they would say about Sider. The first time they would see him, the first time they would see him live, or the first time they would watch him play. It was amazing, the praise that would come out of these play-by-play and color guys about his game. That was just the first time they saw him was shocking.
Yeah, and I've said this before about him, but it does bear repeating. Is he was piling up assists without taking any chances, and I remember talking to Jeff Blashill about this, and it was really remarkable. Usually for a rookie put up points, he's got to push it a little bit. He's got to probably take chances that he shouldn't, and Sider never did that. It was almost like he was a 1950s defenseman where he was tethered to the blue line. He wouldn't move in deep, yet he still was piling up the points. So whenever he gets comfortable and starts carrying that puck up ice, And he's so poised with the power play. But I did want to bring up what I think is an interesting point, and I know Russ will appreciate it, probably Mike too, is I had to write a story about Lucas Raymond, who's kind of a bit in the shadow of Moritz Seider. And here's the points I would make. He finished fourth. And you were talking about how there were more MVP candidates. Well, there were more candidates for the Rookie of the Year than usual, too. And to give you an example, Lucas Raymond had more points than Kaprizov had last year when he won Rookie of the Year. And Lucas Raymond was fourth. And he was on 75.9% of the ballots, which I think is pretty good for a guy that finished fourth as well. But I wonder if the comparison for him, and I wrote this for a Detroit audience, so they would understand, but I think Russ and Mike will. The comparison would be Lou Whittaker and Alan Trammell. In 1976, they came up together. They were identified as a pair. And now, obviously, it's a little bit different because they were a double play combination, so they worked well together. But people have now forgotten because Trammell is in the Hall of Fame, but Lou Whittaker was the Rookie of the Year.
Right.
And Alan Trammell was fourth in that balloting. So just like Lucas Raymond and Seider.
I didn't know that. That's good.
Yeah, and they both obviously ended up helping the '84 Tigers win a championship, and I think that's that. I think the Red Wings would like that comparison. But how many times do you think that there have been two players on one team on the All Rookie team? This stunned me, absolutely stunned me.
Wow. I'm going to say 4 times.
Yeah, that's what I would have guessed. 4 or 5. It's 17.
Wow.
17 times there's been 2, and there's been 3 twice.
Wow.
So, so it's really not all that unusual for 2 rookies. And if you think about it, I guess that does make sense. But I was right with Russ. I would have guessed 4 or 5, something like that.
Yeah.
But
and this comes into play too with Simon Edvinsson sitting in the wings, right? Like Kevin, like so this is like this is the guy who was at least from an outsider's perspective looking in. And I read your article back in June on where you have a Detroit on Detroit Hockey Now. You have their top 10 prospects. It's back in June. I'm looking at it now, June 7th. It's a great article. But you talk about him, and I mean, when I heard, before this year, before I knew Seider was great and all that, just from an outsider's perspective, I heard Edvinsson was the big thing, that he was like the one that everybody was talking about beyond Seider.
Yeah, no, and Steve Yzerman doesn't say much about prospects, but he raves about Edvinsson. Yeah, like he really likes him. So Yzerman may like him even more than the scouts like him. That first round pick belongs to him, and he was sold on him early. They like him. He's a big guy that can skate like the wind.
6'4", already. He put up 19 points this year in 44 games in the Swedish Hockey League, playing with adults.
The only thing I would say, Ek, is I think Seider's better. Edvinsson is definitely more physical. Seider
more physical than Seider? I don't think so.
Edvinsson, he's when he gets going. Okay, I'm just telling you. When he gets going and he feels comfortable in the league. But at any rate, the thing about Evan is I don't think he thinks the game as fast as Seider. I think it's a little bit behind that. And so I like Seider better overall.
Just to complete the awards, Shesterkin received 29 of 32 first place votes. Obviously, I know this is a general manager's vote, but obviously Eck had some say so here because Ilya Sorokin got one of the 3 non Shesterkin votes.
Well, I'm a GM after all.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry,
go ahead. Go ahead, Mike. Finish.
I was going to say Anderson, Vasilevsky, and Sorokin got the 3 other first place votes.
But don't you just because the GMs certainly have questioned the writers on their balloting, like if there was ever a year where it should have been 32 of 32, it was this year. I mean, don't you wonder who those three gentlemen are? Because I do.
I do, and I also. It's the funny thing is the guy who finished second, Markstrom, got no first place votes. He got like half of the second place votes. The guys who received the other first place votes ended up fourth, fifth, and sixth in voting. So that was just
right.
So anyway,
I mean, and the GMs, like we talk about, I mean, they're voting for the goalies, and like I've said before, I think the GMs are the ones who who give the least amount of respect to the goalies sometimes with their salaries. So that's an interesting one, But this was not this. That was it was. What was funny is when Shesterkin won it last night. My wife's like, "Oh wait, I thought he'd won it already." And if you watch television, if you watch just the games on, you would have absolutely thought Shesterkin had won this already. Like this was being mentioned.
Yeah,
every time we talked about it. And when you're watching Rangers games, like there's this year's Vezina Trophy winner, they would just say it.
They said presumptive, and everybody,
not always. I mean, not always.
Yeah.
I remember there were a couple times where they would just be like, this year's Vezina Trophy gear that whatever, and that could be. I know it could be different ways, but it was just he was so. I mean, that was the most obvious Vezina we've had in a long time. And like he probably could, MVP definitely could have been in there.
Now, okay, we said that this was a possibility, and Aki, I have to tip the hat to you because yesterday when we were talking about Florida, you did mention Paul Maurice.
Yeah.
And now today it comes out that Paul Maurice was named the head coach of the Florida Panthers, and Brunette, Elliot Friedman reported that Brunette is probably not going to take the assistant's job and is going to probably interview with the other teams that are still have coaching vacancies.
Yeah.
But Kev, there was something there because otherwise they would have just announced Brunette. All of a sudden, if there was a fait accompli, I think they would have announced it by now. So there was a reason to think that the possibility was going to happen.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm just still not surprised at that. The Florida Panthers really didn't make as much progress as I think they should have made in terms of their defensive game. They were an exceptional team, but a new coach usually brings about better defensive play because he knows that's the area where you can make impact. So I think that over the long run didn't serve Brunette well. That the team just didn't seem to improve in that area. So none of this surprises me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you got to remember that this is Bill Zito's first head coach hiring. This is really, I mean, he inherited Quenneville and Brunette. So this is the guy. This is his guy. So he's been putting his team together as we talked about, changed so many players. But this is his coach. And we talked about that. I talked about Maurice with them for a while, knowing that there was that was definitely, you can see personality wise a solid fit between those two. And I think that's important. And also it's important to have somebody who talks well to the media in Florida. And Maurice is very good with media. Like he's very.
Oh, he's great with the media. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an important thing. That also is something. I think the amount of respect that he got. And a lot of that I think came from the way he handled his exit in Winnipeg too. That also was a big respect thing.
Well, I do think that the media aspect is important, Russ. But the thing that he got outcoached by John Cooper, but that's not a crime because a lot of people have been outcoached by John Cooper. But taking over for Quenneville, they were the highest scoring team in the league. But we said going into the playoffs that defense, maybe Ekblad coming back would help, but that overall team defense was their issue. And I looked at them and said, this is like the Leafs. This is like a team that is trying to outscore people in the playoffs, and you cannot do that. You have to play two-way. They didn't, and they lost to Tampa. And I think that Brunette suffered, that his reputation in terms of getting that job as a full-time job was hurt by that.
Yeah, I mean, Maurice will change that for sure. The only thing about Maurice is for all the years he's been in the league, he hasn't gone deep as many times as you think he should have. So deep in the playoffs. So that's the only bugaboo there. But again, like if it were me, I'd have chosen Montgomery over him, but that's just me. I like Maurice though.
Yeah. Well, he's made the Cup final twice, so
yeah. I mean, I think that he's a polarizing coach to players as much as he's friendly to the media. I've met players, I've said this before, who just think he is the worst person on the planet. Like players who really will just come out and say that he is just and it's a horrible thing because he doesn't.
Well, there was a divide in Winnipeg, like it was reported. So yeah.
I mean, and I mean, I think I'll even go to like Mike Sullivan is the guy who's on NHL Network, who my word there? No,
not Mike Sullivan. You're Mike Johnson.
Mike Johnson. Sorry, Mike Johnson played for him, and Mike Johnson, I heard one time interviewed on XM about him, and really railed into him about like being just a terribly a guy you can't trust. Like if you're a player you don't trust. It was really fascinating. Mike Johnson obviously had an issue with him. I've heard that to varying degrees, but to hear somebody actually go on the record with it was pretty shocking. But I think that he definitely is going to get more out of this team, and I really got the sense that I think Brunette had a real tough time shifting from the assistant coach to the head coaching job, like we've talked about.
Well, he didn't in the regular season.
But when you look,
they didn't miss a beat in the regular season.
I watch the Panthers all the time, and they had these great. They won and they won and they won. But they also, I'm not saying they got lucky, but they had a lot of games they won in overtime against not so great teams. They didn't just dominate people all the time. They
also had mediocre to just okay goaltending at a bottom.
Well, see, I don't know about that, but they led the league in comeback wins. Meaning they would fall behind 5-1, 5-2, and then come back. And you cannot play that way in playoffs.
And I talked to some people down there a couple times, and they said the record's great, but we are getting a little lucky. And I would hear that, I would hear that, and I wasn't surprised at all by this. I really did not expect Brunette to be back. So, will he get a job? And I think the pure reason for not doing it until now is one, Maurice I don't think was interviewed by anybody else. So I think Maurice.
Here was Bobrovsky's GSAA minus 0.03. That ain't great. That's bad.
Well, that might be the reason why there are rumors out there that Zito is wanting to trade Bobrovsky, and it's like, okay, good luck with the $10 million salary. You're probably going to have to retain 50% to find anybody interested.
I'll end with this thing, and that is that Zito, one of his big things when he went there, and he is trying to make the culture of Florida a really solid hockey culture, like Lamoriello did in New Jersey. That was what Lamoriello is his,
like they've done in Tampa. Yeah.
Right. And
Tampa's got that culture.
I don't think it's a shocker that he just let this award ceremony play out before removing Brunette. Like, I think that to me is one of those things that you sit there and you say, okay, he is up for this award. If he goes to that award being a fired coach, that's pretty embarrassing. You know what I mean? It's like, even though, obviously the award was named already, I just think the whole concept of it, I'm not surprised.
No, I think Bobby Francis was fired before he won the award too. I think Kevin would remember that.
I don't think that's classy. Yeah. I don't think that's classy. And I think that Zito's trying to make Florida into a team that doesn't do that kind of thing. Like, I think he wants them to be. He did. It was very, very adamant about not trading for Claude Giroux until he played his 1,000th game or 3,000th.
I do have an alternative view, though. Maybe they also heard back from Barry Trotz, who said, "I like the team, but not enough to go. Thank you very much."
Sure, it's entirely possible.
And it was reported that they wanted sort of to take the emotion out of the decision in terms of the coach. So they didn't want to do it right away after they lost. They wanted to wait a few weeks at least. And I think that's the prudent thing to do. You don't want to
classy. I mean, he had a good year. I mean, it's not like just because he got swept in the playoffs, he still had a good year. It deserved, the recognition, and it deserved not to just be like eliminated from his job immediately, especially when he had already gotten credit for this award. My question is, with the GM of the Year award, that comes out in a little while, I guess, right? That's
the nominees were announced: Drury, Brisebois, and Joe Sakic.
Anybody surprised Zito's not in that category? I mean, I am personally. I mean, I think
this is an odd award anyway, because it's for the playoffs too, which makes it different than any other award,
right?
And the voting mix is completely different. It's either all broadcasters or all writing group with a couple of broadcasters or all GMs, and this is a hodgepodge, a patchwork group of a couple of writers, some GMs, and some coaches. And I don't even know what the criteria is. It's is it for this year? Is it for kind of several years?
No one seems to know.
It's really complicated.
Well, it has to be for one. It has to be for 1 year, Kev, because Drury's only been GM for 1 year. So,
But what I'm saying is making down the line. Like that's I think what you're saying, right, Kevin? You're not saying it's not
right.
Just
like coach of the year. If you are a coach of a good team, you usually can't win because that usually goes to someone who had a bad team and now they're a good team.
Right.
And with GM, because the playoffs are in it, they vote after the playoffs start, so they usually take that into account. There's usually in the finalists are represented with the good teams in the playoffs. So I think it's just an odd award in terms of I don't really quite understand what we're awarding here. Is it to someone who makes the best changes coming into the season, or is it that you've done a good job in your career there, or you were good at trade deadline? I just think this one is no one has a handle on it. So
last year, Zito was a finalist in this category. Remember, he was one of the three. But his team lost in the first round of the playoffs. So this year, obviously, best record in the league, wins a round, gets swept by Tampa, which is still getting swept. But I guess if you want to look at your way, Kevin, where you're saying okay, not your way, but the one thing you're talking about, he did trade away 2 first-round draft picks, right? He did things that are moving forward, are maybe not the smartest things for GMs. He went for Reynolds. He went for it. That's his job to go for it from above. So it's not really necessarily on him. I think it's hard not to give this to him in my mind. I thought he was going to win it.
I don't know.
I'll tell you.
Go ahead, Kev. What were you saying?
I just don't know because I don't think we truly understand it, and I don't vote on it, so I don't know quite what the criteria is, and it seems a bit mysterious. I mean, this award really was started by the general managers, so I don't really know quite what we're trying to achieve with it.
Yeah. I mean, I could say that I could easily see Drury winning this too because, like Kev said, if the grade is you've outpaced what everybody thought your team could do, then Drury's going to win it.
Yeah.
Right. But last year, Lamorello won it on the Islanders team. That was good, but just as good as they were the year before. So it wasn't like you're outpacing there so much.
True.
Well, there's no question that the playoffs play a big role. If you look at who the finalists are, there's all playoff people in it usually. So I'm sure it hurt Bill Zito that he lost.
No question. And I think probably, maybe, I don't know, maybe trading away futures for Reynolds, I guess
maybe.
If you don't succeed, then that's a bad move, right? So I guess I don't know.
Well, I guess it depends who the GMs are that are voting.
That's true.
Right. That's the other thing.
Right?
If he gets the better, if it's being voted on by GMs.
Well, it's not GM. It's a combination. Like I think it's. It's 2 writers, 3 broadcasters, a partridge in a pear tree, 2 managers. I think
they just say NHL front office personnel or something, right? Something
5
like
GMs,
that.
5 GMs, 2 mascots, a vlogger from Winnipeg, things like that.
No, it really is a very unique panel that votes. So
for sure. All right, so we have a few minutes left here. I wanted to get to tonight's game, of course.
Well, can I hit on one thing quick here?
Yes, go ahead.
Josh Yohe from The Athletic is reporting that the Penguins and Evgeny Malkin are far apart on numbers on a new deal. His report said that they're concentrating on getting Letang re-signed, and there's a significant difference between what they're willing to offer Malkin and what Malkin's camp wants. And Kev, Russ and I were talking about this last night. With the news that Nicholas Backstrom could be done at least the year and maybe his career with this hip surgery that he's having, the Malkin to Washington stuff makes sense.
It does, and because you can imagine Ovi calling Leonsis, who he has a great relationship with, and saying, we're going to need him. And, Evgeny can still play at a high level. So I like it too. I think it's a good fit. I would love to see that. Wouldn't you love to see Ovechkin and Malkin?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was just looking at it, and it just felt right. And then, like what Mike said, that the Backstrom resurfacing was going to take at least a year, and maybe he's never going to be back. That gives them the opening to sign, Malkin for, a 3-4 year deal.
Yeah, and I think they would rather do that.
Yeah.
They say a 2 or 3 year deal for Malkin than what okay. Giroux probably is going to want the same type of term, but guys like Kadri and Trocheck, who are younger, they're probably going to want 6-7 year deals.
Yeah.
If I'm Washington, I'd rather sign Malkin for 3 than those guys for 6 or 7.
Yeah. Although you got to be concerned at this stage of Malkin's career about his health and coming off major knee surgery, and Giroux plays, So
yeah, like he doesn't miss it. He's played so many games.
One thing about Malkin, though, I think what he's done, I don't think he would be an LTIR guy. I honestly think when he's done, he would just walk away. I really feel like that he's that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if he's going to walk away from a big ticket.
I know.
But,
I'm just saying.
Money and things.
I do think it would be incredibly fun to see that. I did not know. I read someone wrote a good story. Was it Cervelli about? No, I don't know who it was. I shouldn't say that, but I can't remember now. But about the people who have had the resurfacing of the hip, and of course, one of them was Ryan Kessler, who hasn't played since.
Yeah.
And then Ed Jovanovski, I think I read.
And he played 35 games, and then his career was over with. Yeah, I saw the same. I didn't see who wrote it, but I saw the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting information. So doesn't it sound painful? By the way,
really,
it definitely sounds painful.
The resurfacing of anything. Yeah, I don't want that. Just did the deck, and that hurt a lot. Resurfacing my deck hurt a bunch.
It shouldn't have hurt. That shouldn't have hurt though.
No, but I have marks, man. Then the paint stripper stuff. That stuff's freaking dangerous as hell. You never strip paint on your own within a show.
Long sleeves. Maybe you should have wore long sleeves and gloves.
Oh, there's no question. I'm scarred for life.
I can one up you on that, Ack, because as you can see the plastic behind me here. I'm doing some painting and work on the ceiling in my study. The ceiling tile is 60 years old, and I'm trying to preserve as much of it as possible. And the only way, because it's so flimsy, because you can't staple it, is to use Gorilla Glue. So imagine the mixture of Gorilla Glue and 60-year-old dust. My hands looked like I'd been fingerprinted for about 5 days. I could not get.
I hope you're using a mask, Mike.
I was.
That's
like. I told him to use a mask. I did.
That's it too. 60 years old.
That's asbestos.
Time to check for
it's definitely asbestos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scary stuff. All right. So tonight, there's a little surprise news here. What's going on here? Nazem Kadri is taking a regular shift today. On the in the morning skate. Cooper says he's going to go with the same lineup. So that means Kucherov will play.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what he looks like.
Over under 10 minutes into the first period, that Corey Perry takes a baseball swing at Nazem Kadri's hand.
No, I'm going to go the over on that because they're going to be watching Corey Perry now like a hawk. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm going to say over under for minutes for Kucherov. I could see them using him sparingly 5-on-5 and mostly on the power play.
I'm very skeptical, Kev. I mean, the way he left the ice in game, we know everybody's going to tough it out because it's game 4 of the Stanley Cup final, but I'd be surprised if he's anywhere close to 100% because he did not.
Who are you talking about now?
Kucherov, yeah.
Well, I was just going to bring up that I saw the video that was on Twitter, and generally, it's noticeable when guys are leaving the arena, and he was walking normally. He wasn't hunched favoring a shoulder. I don't know, what his injury was, but I thought it was lower body. But he seemed fine when he was walking out of the arena. So in the video, so I don't know.
Well, he is playing, but I mean, if he's a factor, then we'll say that he definitely wasn't as hurt as it appeared to be because when he left the ice, there was a 5-on-3 and they were up, so that he didn't have to be out there. But he was out there for about 20 seconds and then left the ice and crumpled in pain and walked down the tunnel and did not come back. So.
I will tell you, there were some people that spoke to me that were just as worried about his core, because of the way he landed on the stick
Yeah.
beside the leg.
I thought about like spleen type things, like it was like there was something weird about the way he twisted. It was just very much like,
we'll see what he looks like.
Now we know
I would give Kadri a good chance of scoring tonight. I mean, if he's playing, he's scoring. I think. I don't
think he's going to take faceoffs though, and I think the problem with that is Cooper is going to match up Stamkos against Kadri's line because he knows Kadri won't take faceoffs, and I think that's a little bit of an advantage, but the toughness factor may help him.
But especially with his limited ability to stick handle. I mean, they wouldn't put him out there unless he could actually do a little bit of it. But you know what Kadri is going to do, Russ? Kadri's going to be a pest. And
but his stick handling, they say, looks pretty good. Actually, they said it was good in practice.
But he's going to be, Colorado's version of Corey Perry. Not the cheap shot is
way different than Corey.
He's going to be an antagonist and an irritant. He'll do that because he knows he can do it.
He's another guy who had almost an MVP type season. He's
had a great year.
Heck, if he didn't have a broken thumb, I'd say he'd play normally. But I'm saying in his diminished capacity, he's going to do whatever he can to help. And one of the things that he could help with is just being an irritant. Now, he can't take penalties, obviously, because that'll give Tampa the power play. But I bet you anything, at the absolute least, he's going to be a pain in the ass tonight.
Right. Darcy Kemper's getting the start and goal.
That's no surprise.
Here we go, Pavel Francouz, come on.
I'm just going to say it. I predicted that if the Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup, it would be Pavel Francouz who would be in goal at the end of the series, and I still stick by that.
It will not happen, Eck. It's not going to happen.
The only way he gets in goal is if Kemper gets hurt or gets blurry visioning.
This team is firmly behind Kemper, and they're gonna crash and burn with him, or they're gonna win it with him.
I don't think so. No, they pulled him. I don't think they're firmly behind him.
They're
sorry. Francouz, they're listen to this. They're a 12-3 team, right? And they're 6-0 with Francouz. I mean, it's like this is we're not talking about
firmly behind him. Trust me, I'm around these players. I see the way they're acting with him. It's not an act.
Kev, short of injury or Kemper giving up 7 tonight, do you see any way that Francouz gets into this as a starter for Colorado?
Yeah, well, it's I think if it's 2-2, there's a chance that Francouz is going to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think it just depends on how he looks. I mean, it was really evident in Game 3 that Kemper was one of the reasons they lost. So in Game 4, if it's like that again, I think there's a chance for sure. It's a redo.
You have to say that Perry got underneath Kemper's skin, and
he did.
And there has been chatter out there that one of the things that Kemper has a problem with is sort of blocking out the distractions. And we know Corey Perry is going to be a distraction. Patrick Maroon is going to be a distraction. Other players like Kucherov can go to the net and be a pain. And Killorn can be pains in the butt in front of the net. If he can't deal with it, then Eck might be right. Then maybe they do go to Francouz. But I think
Bednar knows. I think Bednar knows that. He spoke to him a couple times. He spoke to him after that game, spoke to him again today, and likes what he's hearing. So I think he would have a good gauge if he felt like that's going to happen again.
Before we go, I wanted to throw one more thing out there because we kind of moved off to coaches. But, with Maurice moving into the picture now, and we've seen Cassidy land, we've seen Tortorella land. Again, it's very experienced coaches have moved. Is it possible that Trotz, who looked like he was the number 1 ranked goalie, has, by taking his time, put himself in a position that he's going to run out of options?
Yeah. He sort of locked himself into Winnipeg or
Winnipeg. Yeah. I mean, it sure seems like Boston is going with a newer coach. That seems to be what they want. Detroit definitely is going to do that.
And he's not going to go to Chicago. So,
I think. Don't you think Chicago's going to end up with Derek?
I do.
The way it sounds, I guess they interviewed Luke Richardson, and now apparently Brunette had some connection to Chicago going back to Quenneville. That now that he's available, they might interview him. So if
it's not Derek King, it'll probably end up being somebody new there.
Right.
Here's
Yeah,
what I'm going to say, though.
Yeah.
So with Trotz, I saw today that the CEO of Fanatics sold his 10% stake in the Devils. So the Devils, I kind of wonder now. I have not heard them say Lindy Ruff is back. I haven't seen it anywhere. I haven't read it anywhere, and I kind of wonder if they would call Trotz last minute. I do wonder about that.
Yeah. I mean,
I've talking to people there. Ruff is back. Like that's what
he's back. Okay. Because they have not really put that out there like definitively.
Well, I'm just curious about, like, okay, Barry Trotz is from Winnipeg. The Jets ownership has made noises that, you know, money is not an issue because they're making money. But does he want to go there because that team, Kev, is really in a situation where they may be trading Wheeler. Scheifele's time might be up there. They're really in transition. And does he want to go to an organization that's sort of in transition?
Yeah, but what are his options? The music is going to stop pretty soon, and there's you got to have a chair. And I wonder too, though, even though, I mean, did he price himself out at $6 million? Like everybody's getting $4. They're like $4 is the number now.
I heard the other big thing was he did want some, say, like an assistant GM, associate GM type thing, Kev. So that became an issue.
And
this is not the NFL.
And the only place that apparently is willing to give him sort of that kind of managerial control is a team that's not hiring a coach, because they just extended John Hines in Nashville. They keep saying it's either Winnipeg or Nashville as some form of in management, but then he's not really in control because David Poyle's the GM there, and John Hines
might not be the GM for long. He might be that. This could be an interesting move for Poyle if he thinks Trotz can handle this to have Trotz be there for a year or two and then move upstairs, right, for Poyle.
Right.
Yeah, and he likes Nashville. His daughter lives there. She has a business there. I could see him go. And he's 60 years old. At some point, does he thinking, well, if I'm ever going to be in management, it's time to go now, and maybe I can be David Poyle's right-hand man, and then be in position with the new ownership taking over to become the guy. So, or he waits it out, and every year we have a team that's supposed to do really good that doesn't do well, and November, December comes around, maybe he's the guy who jumps on and suddenly is the coach of I don't know who, but. But a lot of cool teams, if I can use that term, are taking coaches now. Even though I think we all agree the Philadelphia Flyers are a mess. I mean, Tortorella just waxed poetic about the coolness of that franchise and being a part of it. Well, I think he's not the only one that feels that way. So
I mean, look at the landscape. Taking outside, the teams that have not hired yet. If you go into the season, who is the coach that's the most at risk of being fired? It could be Lindy Ruff. Maybe there are one or two others that are on the precipice. If Toronto gets off to a bad start, Sheldon Keefe could be in trouble. So could Cuban. But there are not many opportunities out there where, like last year, Boudreau comes into Vancouver and takes over. And then you also have Travis Green is out there as well. He's probably going to be on the outside looking in. If he's going to snap at something, it should be before the season starts, because then the opportunity might not be there for over a year.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is, and we see this in the NFL, and I remember Kevin saying this a while back when Trotz was, out there, that even a lot of teams would be willing to upgrade to Trotz. So that does make you wonder if he has priced himself out and limited the field. It really does.
Well, and it's not just the coaches. I mean, you just made a good point, Mike, about Boudreau. Not only have, looks like Boston's not interested in Trotz. So, that job will have a new coach. Vegas has a new coach. A lot of teams have a new coach. And, Vancouver just hired a coach that they extended as well. Right. Teams are not in a position where they're going to be firing coaches. Gallant's not going anywhere for a while.
Right.
So it's, you couldn't just say I'll wait it out, because the wait may be long.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, not too long, because we always fire coaches, but
there's always going to be somebody, like if the Rangers got off to a horrible start, Kakko was traded and everything like that. You could always see
come on.
Yeah, they're not going to fire Gallant, early in the season.
No, he's safe
so.
next year. Trust
No,
me.
I think he's safe too. I'm just.
I mean, Marty St. Louis just got a 3-year deal.
Right.
Cooper's safe. Maurice is just started. If you're just going down the Atlantic Division, I think the only coach, DJ Smith might be in danger in Ottawa if they get off to a bad start. But does Barry Trotz want to go to Ottawa? Probably not.
No.
I mean,
what about a triumphant return to Washington?
Well, do you think Laviolette's in trouble?
No.
But he always has a short lifespan.
He does.
Because you know why he has a short lifespan? Because he's not very likable
I know. And
seriously, I mean, he tends to alienate. He's not fun to work with because he's real hyper focused and he just wants to do things his way. And I mean, I like him. I like talking to him, but you can see he's just a serious guy about what he's doing.
He is a serious guy.
It's like there is no Laviolette being in trouble. The second he's in trouble, he's gone. Like
right.
That's the thing. Like if he goes from being great to being gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty much everywhere.
There's no in between.
I mean, the best, really, what it comes down to, David Poile used to sit with Barry Trotz and they talk about the team and everything, and he tried to do that with Peter Laviolette, and Peter's that's not what I do. Like man, I'll coach.
And he doesn't fire anybody, Poile. Like Poile's not a firing GM. I mean, he let Trotz go through forever there, and Laviolette went to a Stanley Cup final and he got fired. Yeah, I mean, you go from great to being gone. But
we had a few games into the next year. A few.
I mean, I think we bought a house like you talked about, but that's for his daughter. Like you talked, but maybe he's just like, what, things have been crazy. Maybe I want to hang out in Nashville with my daughter and watch her do her thing, for a year.
I think he still owns his original house there too.
Okay, so
I'm not positive of that, but I've been told that may be the case. He may still own his house he was living in when he was coaching.
And if he goes to Nashville, he could be one of those guys who gets like hired by the Predators or whatever to do like some things for them.
Yeah, but he's passing up on a lot of free beer if he goes to Winnipeg.
True. No, I know. Winnipeg's a tough place to get people to go to, though.
I mean, look, he could be a special consultant, whatever, and just kind of go in under that guy's. Hextall did that with Philly. He went in as like a special consultant, blah, 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 and
Yeah, and then things evolve from there.
And if he doesn't go to Winnipeg, then that opens it up for, Tocchet, Travis Green. I've heard Randy Carlyle's name being mentioned with Winnipeg. So if he doesn't take it, then it takes a turn there.
It wouldn't be a buzzcast if Mike didn't mention Randy Carlyle. I just have to point that out.
Russ, I just heard the name. Excuse me.
Speaking of Nashville, before we go, this mask, which I found.
Wayne Stevenson.
This is not the Wayne Stevenson one. I have that one in the other room. That has the big Flyers emblem on it and everything like that. But this is the Peli Lindbergh mask, right? This is
Oh yeah, I can see it. I have the small window, but I see it.
It was made by somebody that I know just to do. And I wore this mask in Nashville when I did my interview down there with Pete Weber the first time, as I was still the anonymous hocky blogger.
Oh yeah, I remember you talked about.
I wore this in the stands. It's really funny. So I had this on in the stands there. Take my glasses off, and I'm sitting there and I'm talking with this thing on, and I'm doing my interview, and right next to me, because of the way the Nashville thing's set up, is John Davidson, because the Rangers were in town.
Right.
JD. So to this day, JD still absolutely hates me, because I think that it was this moment when I was wearing this mask and doing that interview that he just said, he defined in his life forever that I am a complete and utter.
They're mocking goaltenders by
mocking everybody, right? So I'm gonna wear it as it properly should be worn, as Peli would have worn it, like this.
That's the way he would have worn it. Yeah.
Yep. So remember, folks, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Enjoy the games tonight. We will see you on tomorrow.